Hi, this is Yvonne Bunn with Educators Association of Virginia. Today we're going to answer some questions about record keeping and transcripts. One of the things that we need to make sure that we do is keep good records, especially for the high school years. That's when it's most important. One of the questions that we often get is, are we required to keep records for our children when they're in elementary school? And the answer is no. The Virginia statute does not require you to keep records of elementary school or middle school children. Not until, in fact, they don't require you to keep any records whatsoever for your children, but you need to keep records for high school, and we call that a transcript. That's an official record of the work that your child has done during their high school years in order to prepare for college or the job market or the military. So a transcript is extremely important record to keep for 9th through 12th grades. But as far as a young child's schoolwork, if you'd like to keep a record of their schoolwork just as a history of what you've done or for your own benefit, or put it in a scrapbook or a notebook for your children to review later on, that's perfectly fine to do that. But the law doesn't require you to keep any records for young children. Only the results of standardized achievement tests. That's the record of progress that your children are making. So you want to make sure that you turn in your standardized achievement test scores or an evaluation by August 1st each year that you filed a notice of intent. So basically, unless you're keeping a portfolio for an evaluation, then keeping your children's schoolwork is not necessary. Only if you prefer to do that yourself for your own benefit or your child's benefit later on. But the state of Virginia does not require you to keep any type of records other than that standardized achievement test and immunization records in a folder at your home in case it's ever asked for. So a question we sometimes have: should I give my children credits for the classes I teach them at home? Well, again, it depends on the age of your child, whether they're young or whether they're in high school level. A credit is simply a way to acknowledge that something has been completed in educational language. And so for grades K through 8, you're okay not to assign any credit value. But of course, 9th grade, you want to start considering some type of transcript or some type of record. And I would suggest a kind of an informal record. One of the things that I always did in elementary level and middle school, I had a teacher's plan book that helped me schedule out what I was going to do each day of the week. And what I would do is I would keep the children's records in the back of my plan book. So I had a general idea. I would even take the score for a test that I had done that day and put it over on the left-hand side of my margin, so I could go back for the week and I could look at what the actual test result was for particular subjects that I would keep grades for in elementary school and middle school. But by the time you get to high school, you want to make sure you're keeping those kinds of records. So you can have an informal type of record-keeping system in your teacher plan book. If you prefer to do it like that, you may have a way that you would like to do it that may be different. But by the time you get to grades 9 through 12, think seriously about keeping a record. You may think that at the end of the school year, you're going to remember all of this information, but you probably won't. So make sure you've got a good record. So grade points, credits, all these are assigned to each completed course that one of your children has taken. A transcript is very important for college, and a transcript that a college admissions officer can recognize, something that is very concise, just 1 or 2 pages is all they want to see. Do you know that a college admissions officer typically will look at a transcript 2 to 4 minutes, and that's all. And then they make a decision on whether or not they're going to put that in the pile, that they're going to look at it again, or whether they're not. So 2 to 4 minutes, depending on your presentation. And if your presentation is filled with lots more detail than they want to look at or they're interested in looking at, it's not going to go in the pile that they're going to look at again. So be sure that everything that you put on that transcript, you could put in 1 or 2 pages, and that's it. And typically, 1 page, the top page, is what they're going to look at. But for college admissions, for trade schools, for military recruiters, and for a lot of employers now want to look at your high school record to see what you did, the subjects that you took, and how prepared you might be for the job market that you want to enter. So it's important to have this record for your child. A lot of times for college scholarships also, they're going to definitely look at your transcript and your records. So make sure it's just 1 or 2 pages for those applications. And another group that's going to look at it is if you're interested in NCAA eligibility, sports, getting any type of sports scholarships at colleges, they're going to want to see that academic record also. So we start keeping that possibly at 8th grade, but 9th grade. And when I say 8th grade, I say that because there's some things that could be going on. If you have a child that is taking high school courses in the 8th grade because they're advanced or because it's a particular subject that they're very, very interested in, and they've gone deeper in that subject than you would typically do for that grade level in the 8th grade. So if, and the question is, if it's a high school course, 9th grade or higher, that your child is taking in the 8th grade, then you can take that high school course that's taken in the 8th grade and you can add it to your 9th grade transcript record. And you would just simply put a little asterisk right beside the course title and indicate down at the bottom of your transcript that this was a course that was taken in the 8th grade, a high school course that was taken in the 8th grade. And you give your child credit for that. Not because he's smart and you took it in the 8th grade, but because it's a high school course that your child took early. Suppose your child takes Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. Then you definitely want to indicate, you don't want to throw that credit away because he took Algebra 1. That's a high school course, but he took it in the 8th grade. So on your 9th grade record, on your transcript, you would definitely put that particular course name on there and indicate it was taken in the 8th grade so that you know that it was earlier that your child took it. So indicate that by an asterisk down at the bottom. When you're thinking about your child taking a course early, it's important to keep the record, but also what's important, if your child is doing accelerated work, in that case, when a student takes that course earlier, an admissions officer is going to look at, did he use those additional semesters to his advantage? Did he continue with accelerated work? Or did your child take Algebra 1 and Geometry, Algebra 1 in 8th grade, Geometry in 9th grade, and then not do anything else with math? He didn't continue on a math track? Then that's not nearly as impressive as starting in 9th grade with Algebra 1 and continuing on to Algebra 2, Geometry, Calculus 1 and 2. They're looking at not so much that your child started early on that, but how did he continue that math track? And did he continue it by taking the opportunities that were there for him in advanced levels of that subject and continued in that? So make sure, if you start early, that he continues in those subjects through his senior year, because they're really going to be looking for that, whether or not you took that opportunity and really developed it as you were studying. So important to do that. As you're doing that, another question we have is, what course names do you put down on a transcript? How do you indicate what subject your child is taking? Well, one of the best ways to do that is look at your textbook title. And you may be able to use your textbook title or a variation of that textbook title, and you can use that. You could also choose a name that indicates what your child has mastered by taking this course. So it's completely up to you if you change the name of the course. You could also look at a community college catalog online, and you could see, what do they call their courses? What did they name them? And so say Math 101 doesn't mean anything to them and won't mean anything to you in 5 years because you won't remember what Math 101 was. So you may want to choose a name that would be more descriptive than that. So make sure you take care of doing that, or use some ideas. Look around on the internet to get some ideas of standard names for courses that are taken in high school. But sometimes your high school text is a good reference to that, or even the table of contents to indicate the level of work that your child is actually doing. So make sure you do that. Now, if your child is taking an AP course, an advanced placement course, or any college dual enrollment courses, you definitely want to include that on your transcript also. Again, you would put an asterisk right beside the title that you've written on your transcript, and then down at the bottom of your transcript, there should be a place left where you can indicate that this particular course was taken at John Tyler, for instance, John Tyler Community College, Chemistry 1 or Chemistry 2, whatever it was, or AP World History, whatever advanced placement or whatever dual enrollment course, clearly indicate that was a higher level course by indicating that on your transcript, so that they can understand that your child is doing AP work. Another question that we often have is, what are the requirements for high school? For instance, do you have to have 2 years of PE in order to graduate from homeschool high school? First of all, let's make it clear. The public school system list of graduation requirements is only for the public school system. It in no way applies to homeschoolers. So you are free to choose the courses that you want your child to take, developed by his interest, or something he wants to study, or something that he excels in. You can do more of that. So you're not required to have the same courses that are offered in public school. You determine what your child will take and what the requirements are for graduation from your homeschool. And that's a freedom that we have as homeschoolers. But now that I've said that, so you don't have to take 2 years of PE. You can take PE or you can not take PE. You can put it down or not. But the important thing to remember when you're doing your transcript, the important thing to remember is that it looks fairly typical of what a typical high school student would have in school. And I say that meaning you want to have 4 years of English. You don't want to do high school and have 2 years of English. That's not typical at all. You always will have 4 years of English. However, if your child is doing math and that's not his strength, you may only want to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry. You don't have to do calculus. You don't have to do 4 years of math. But I wouldn't do just 1 year of math. You want it to be a typical course of study that a college, someone looking at your transcript would be able to identify with and say, well, this is a good candidate because he has a good foundation in basic math and English skills. So you want to make sure you pretty much get those covered. It's real important to do that. So no specific subjects, but still be careful with it to make sure you're covering everything. You are free to design that course of study that's going to benefit your child the most, whether you're preparing your child for college or whether you're preparing them to go into a technical field or a private college or to go into the military. You need to make that determination. And I suggest at the high school level, you sit down with your children and you talk to them very early on and say, what are you planning to do? What are you thinking you'd like to do? Where do you want to be in 4 years? And of course, they could change their mind 2 or 3 times in the meantime. For that reason, sometimes it's good to kind of have a college track if they're able to keep up with that level of academics. But if not, if you know they're going to a technical school or doing something else along those lines, then you can definitely gear their curriculum towards that type of learning. So make sure that you do that. Another question is about credits for PE or driver's ed. Typically, those are considered electives if you do PE, and you would give your child a half a credit for that because it doesn't take the intensity of study or the intensity of time that a typical English class would take that you would take the entire year. It may only take a half a year to take it. It may only take 3 months to do a particular class. So in that case, you would not give a full credit for something like that. So make sure that in your electives, you're reasonable about the credits that you're going to be giving your child during those high school years. And of course, in the notes field, again, on the transcript, in the notes field that we have on our transcript and that you can have on yours, always indicate AP classes, honors courses, online courses that they've taken from distance learning programs, college level courses, dual enrollment courses, any advanced courses, anything like that. Make sure that if you've got that on your transcript, you want to be sure that it's notated so they understand the value of the grade and the credit that's been given to your child concerning that. Another thing you want to think about too with this, and we often have a question, is what about co-op classes that my child takes? Should I indicate that this was taken at a co-op? I don't think I would indicate that on there, because you certainly have the freedom to delegate a class to a co-op, 1 or 2 classes to a co-op. You could enroll your child in a private school for a class. All of these things are available for homeschoolers, and it's a wonderful way to enhance their education. But it's not necessary to indicate that a co-op class grade is given unless it's an advanced placement course that your child has taken, or it's a higher level. So in that case, you definitely would want to make sure that that's done. So how do you assign grades on a transcript? That's not always easy because there's some things that we just know that our children are doing well. We don't have to have grades on everything that they do, and there are other things that we do want to be more consistent with grades. And so you're going to have to decide yourself what your grading scale is going to be, but on your transcript you would want to indicate what that grading scale is. If 95 to 100 is an A, then you want to show that. If 90 to 100 is an A, then you want to indicate that so that they'd have an idea. But you have to remember that college admissions officers see transcripts from all over the country, not just the state of Virginia, but every place. And every state, every school system has a different grading system. So you just need to show what your grading system is in order to have them understand what your grades are based on. So the main thing is to be consistent with your grades. And I know that's not always easy, but this is no time for emotional entanglement with your children. You have to be honest. You are not doing them a favor if you are giving them grades that they have not earned, because grades are earned, they are not given. And so do not get emotionally involved or think this is really going to help my child. It may not help your child at all. In fact, he may get in way over his head at the college level or in the military. So make sure that you're very careful with assigning the grade value and giving the grades A, B, C, D, or F to make sure that you're consistent. There are a few courses that you could even do pass-fail if you wanted to. But if you do a pass-fail course, then it is not counted in GPA. It is not counted and typically doesn't have any credits assigned to it either. So you just want to make sure that you stay consistent with your what you're doing with your grading system and on your transcript. So let's talk about a GPA, a grade placement average. Grade point average. A grade point average is determined by totaling the number of grade points that are earned and then dividing that number by the total number of credits completed. And of course, a credit is basically given for one course at the high school level, a full course that is completed. And it typically will take an entire year to finish a course. So when you're looking at a grade point average, you're going to be assigning that grade with a point that can be used in mathematics to determine the average points that you have given your students. So an A would typically be 4 points, and a B would be 3, and a C would be 2, and a D would be 1, and of course an F is nothing. So you can't count that. So you want to assign that number to the grades that you are giving your child in order to average those out each year. And typically a transcript is done by year, not by semester. Now I've seen them done by semester, but typically it's a year that you'll be gathering these grades, and you'll be putting each year on that one-page transcript. That's why you don't want to put too much detail on there. You just want the yearly average that's at the end. So let's talk about credits for a moment. What is a credit? How do you calculate a credit with your student when he's completed? And this is a big question that we often have because as soon as he begins those high school level courses, you want to make sure that you're doing this correctly. So credits are recorded on your transcript, and a credit generally is determined by the parent concerning the subjects and the number of credits necessary to complete the entire course of study. So when you're looking at the course of study you're preparing for your children for 4 years, I strongly suggest that you make a plan, a 4-year plan. And in that 4-year plan, you need to decide how many credits are going to be required by you, the parent, in order for your child to complete the course of study that you have prepared for him for high school. Now, you can look at the public school website if you want to see what they teach and how many credits they get. That may give you some good ideas. You could look at some college websites, but that's a little different because you have to have a lot more credits to graduate from college than you do from high school. But you can look at some correspondence courses and look at some online instruction to see what they require for credits and how many credits they give for things, because that's going to help you. Now, as you're looking at this, it's good to know that a credit is considered a Carnegie Unit. And a Carnegie Unit can represent from 120 to 150 hours of study in each course that's given. So that's just about 50 minutes a day for 5 days a week for 36 weeks per year. 120 to 150 hours of credit, hours of work on a subject. That's one Carnegie Unit. And so when you're looking at that, it's basically probably what you're already doing. You're teaching 5 days a week. You're doing almost an hour a day, and you're doing it for at least 36 weeks during the year, which is a typical school year that most public schools go by, although we're not tied in directly to that particular number. So you can do that. Now, if you have an elective, so you can get 1 credit if you've done that amount of work. By no means am I suggesting that you set a timer and you make sure you do 50 minutes every day. I think you can generally know, are you doing 50 minutes a day? Have you done a little more today? Maybe a little less yesterday than you did today, but you've done more today. So, it usually averages out. So that's one way that you can look at that. If you have an elective, you're not going to be spending as many hours on an elective as you will on a typical English, math, history, or science course. So an elective doesn't have the same value in credit units as a typical, more academic subject, because it could be something they may even do half a year or 1 semester. It could also be something that, like PE, maybe they were on a sports team, but you didn't spend 50 minutes every day, 5 days a week doing the sports activities. You may feel like you've done that sometimes by taking them and all the things that you have to do with practices, but that's not as intense academically as a math course or history course that they're going to be taking. So typically a PE, sports team, something like that is usually a half a credit. A foreign language can be a whole credit. Because it's very intense, so you can look at that. Also, for giving a credit, there are other ways that you can do this too. If your child would pretty much finish 80% of a textbook, then regardless of the number of hours that he's done it, if he's done about 80% of the course in a textbook, then you can give him a full credit for doing that course. That's very typical for public schools, not to complete the textbook all the way to the end. In fact, that's the reason they have so much review the next year following the year that they've so kind of completed the course that they did the year before. So you can know that if you've completed the textbook about 80%, you can also give your students credit for that. Be sure on your transcript to give credit for time spent on field trips. Those are learning activities, for lectures, for tours that they do, for hobbies that they may be involved in, for work that they do. I know my children had part-time jobs while they were in high school. They were learning all types of business skills while they were doing their work, waiting on the public, doing math with calculators and the cash register, and learning people skills and business skills and keeping books and records and things like this. All of these things, whether it's a hobby or it's a job, these are things that you can give your children credit for as homeschoolers, because homeschooling is out-of-the-box learning, and they are learning from doing all of these things, and you can recognize that on your transcript. So make sure you don't forget to include those things when you're calculating the credits and naming the courses that you're giving your children. Also, for dual enrollment courses that they may be taking, you want to make sure, as I said earlier, that it's listed on your transcript, but at the same time, it will take them half the time to do a 1-credit high school course that in a college setting. In other words, it will take them 1 semester in college to do a full year's work for homeschool, because a college class is very, very concentrated. They only meet a few hours a week. There's a lot of work that's done outside of the classroom. And so they will get maybe 3 credits, maybe 4 if the college course has a lab with it, whether it's a science lab or a writing lab for English course they're taking. But regardless, they're going to get 3 credits for that because it's so concentrated in one semester at community college when they're dual enrolled. But when you take that and you indicate that on your high school transcript, you want to make sure you only give them 1 credit for that high school, for that college, community college course that they have taken. Because it takes a lot more credits to graduate from a college than it does from homeschool. And typically, public school kids will graduate with 22, 26, 28 credits. So you don't want to give them an English credit that's 3 credits long. So that's too many to add up. Now your credits can go over that, but if you're getting into 50 and 60 credits, it honestly raises some questions with those that are looking at the transcript, because they don't know what your system is and what your what you're giving credits for, or how many credits you're giving for each subject. It's very confusing for them. So you want to stay in that 20 to early 30 range, I would suggest. But dual enrollment, notate that, but change it to 1 credit on your high school transcript. Remember, they're going to get 3 college credits for that course, typically, towards college graduation, and the college is keeping that record. That's not your record to keep. You're keeping the record there for your transcript for high school. I would photocopy that college transcript when they give the record to you, or they send it to your student in the mail. Photocopy that and put it with your transcript as verification that this was taken at such and such community college. So you can make sure you cover that. So we've talked about the number of credits that you need to graduate. From 22, 28, 30, 32 at the most would be all I would be looking at. Typically, the courses that you would be taking would be 4 years of English, 2 to 4 years of math, 2 to 4 years of science, 2 to 4 years of history, a foreign language. And also I'd like to let you know that recently, as of, it was just implemented in the fall of last year, American Sign Language is now an accredited college, is accepted by colleges as an accredited language course. So if your child has taken and passed American Sign Language, you can use that and take, instead of taking another foreign language like French or Spanish or Japanese or something like that. So that's been a recent change in the electives regarding foreign language that your child can take. Any electives, any extracurricular activities, any awards that your child has gotten during the high school years. Very important to include those on your transcript also, just what those awards actually are. I know one of our sons was an Eagle Scout, and he indicated so on the bottom of his transcript that he was an Eagle Scout. And it was so interesting because the person who was interviewing him when he was applying to colleges, one of them said, oh, he was an Eagle Scout also, and he knew exactly what it took to become an Eagle Scout. So he was very impressed with that, and he was accepted at the college. I don't think it was only because of that, but they are looking for things to show that you and your transcript indicates how you stand out among other students. That's the thing they're looking for, and that's why it's extremely important to put those things down on that. And I also like to let you know, as I'm finishing up here, and I hope you're writing down some, typing in some questions to send me so that we can go over some of these things. I have a copy of HEAV's transcript. I know you can't see this very well, and it's probably backwards also, which I discovered from last time. But anyway, I'll just show this to you very quickly. HEAV has a transcript service. You keep your transcript information until the junior or the beginning of the senior year. Then you can send it to us, and we'll put it on a form in the proper format that's acceptable to colleges, and so that they're familiar with seeing how it's laid out, how it's organized. It has space down at the bottom to indicate all the special things that we've talked about with your transcript. And you can work with our transcript person who's by phone. You can email your information to her. She'll call, or you can call her and discuss how you want things listed on there. She'll talk to you if she thinks that you need a better course title or any questions that she might have. And then HEAV will print out this transcript on professional paper that cannot be photocopied, which is what most organizations are looking for if they're looking at your transcript. And so we'll send it to you, and you can distribute it to the higher levels of education you're interested in, or technical schools, or the military, as a permanent record of your child's high school years. And this costs about $35 for non-members, and HEAV members get a discount on this. So you can go to our website at heav.org and look into our transcript service. But this is for us to take your records and put them in a format that's professional and acceptable to these other higher levels of education. So I hope that will be helpful to you, and I'll be glad to take some questions now. And let's see if I can scroll down on my phone here and go back up here and see. I always wonder if my finger is on the screen. I hope it's not. Let's see. Somebody's calling. All right. I can't get that phone call right now. All right. We've got some things on our website that we're looking at, and some people are sharing the video. Thank you for doing that. And I'm sure we'll leave it posted up there so I can get some more questions answered for you. Sandra asks, is there a particular format to a transcript that we should follow? Can it just be typed up in a Word document, or should we try to make it look more official? Well, that's a good question. There are many transcripts samples available on the internet. and you can choose any one you want to use. And you can definitely make up your own transcript. I shouldn't use the word make up, but develop your own transcript based on the work that your child has done. Certainly, you can do that. And you can send it in yourself. This child can send it in, a student can send it in themselves to the college. I would make it look as professional as possible because that's what they're accustomed to seeing. I've known some parents that have sent in samples of their child's work, almost like a portfolio of 10, 12, 15, 20 pages of the child's work, and never heard a word back because that is not what they want to see. So make sure if you do your own transcript, and what I always did is I chose the transcript that I liked on the web, and I printed it off, kept it in the back of my plan book, and I filled it out my own way, put the information in there that was required, and so I used that as my own rough draft. And then at the end, when I was ready to complete everything and have my child send this off to college, then I actually put it in a different format, a little bit more formal, because I had handwritten some things in on that and to put some notes down of things that I wanted to include. And then you may want to send that your records to HEAV and have them compile it on your official transcript if you'd like to do that. And we can certainly make multiple copies of that if you want that also. They're available for a small additional price. So I think Homey for transcripts is not what we want. We really want it to look very professional and really reflect the work that our children have done. So there's a transcript checklist that you can read, print, and follow. So make sure you look at that also. Let me see, are there any other questions on here that I am missing? I don't want to miss any. And I'll get online after this and make sure that I'll find your questions and I'll just type the answers in Facebook to you so that we can make sure we're covering everything that you need. So, all right, if you think of anything else that I can help you with regarding grades, transcripts, records that you may want to be keeping for your children, please, type in a question, send it to us. And also, I'd like to recommend our website. We have lots of information under the high school section of our website on course development, on high school, and how to develop a 4-year plan for your child, as well as how to create a transcript. So I thank you for joining me today, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.